Welcome to Monday Mentor with Jen. I'm Jen Whitmer, and I help teams and leaders solve conflict and personality clashes. And so today I did a poll about what would you like to learn the most. And here is the top one, both in my private Facebook group, on Instagram, and here on LinkedIn. What does it mean for your personality and conflict resolution? And so today, that is what we're going to be talking about. So if you are here live, just let me know in the comments you are here live. I will say hello. And if you're watching the replay, that's fantastic. I will come back and answer your questions as well. So as I'm talking, drop those questions in the comments and I will make sure that we get to them. And I'm having a special event later that I will tell you about that you can be live with me on a Zoom and ask more detailed questions that are sometimes more challenging than a LinkedIn post can allow. So today, like I said, we are going to be talking about the Enneagram and personality conflict styles. So Enneagram and conflict styles. So we have a plan today because, doesn't everybody love a plan and you want to know where we're going? So here's the plan. First of all, I'm just going to define conflict, how I choose to define conflict and how I see it working best when we're trying to resolve conflict. So we're going to define conflict. If you are saying, Ennea, what? And you're like, what is this thing that you're talking about? I'm going to quickly define the Enneagram. And then we're going to jump into the conflict coping styles that the Enneagram describes to us. And once we get into those, you'll be able to see some of the good things and some of the things that are challenging for each one of these conflict styles. So before we jump totally in, I want to share a little story. So when our kids were like, they were like 2.5, 6, 8, and 9, we took them to Chicago for this spring break trip. It was amazing. I had so much fun. This is like one of the best vacations I ever remember taking with our family and our kids. And so we went to Chicago. We did everything. We had Giordano's Pizza. We went up Willis Tower, played at the Bean, all of those kinds of things. And then when my youngest was tired, she would say, we go back to our Chicago home now. And we go swim in this rooftop pool, which was quite the novelty for suburban kids. And so a few years later, we were going to go back to Chicago for a spring break trip, take our oldest to see Hamilton, couple things. And I was like, oh, this will be great. And my husband was like, why would we ever do that? That was the worst trip ever. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? He's like, that was a terrible experience. And he started telling me about these things that I have no recollection of. He's like, don't you remember how angry I was? I wanted to leave one of the kids like right in front of the lions at the art museum. And this one cried the entire way, the block and a half from Giordano's Pizza to Willis Tower. I didn't remember any of that. So the thing that happens is that two people can have be in the same place, go through the same experience, and walk away with completely different ideas. And that is part of conflict. I'm sure you can remember an experience where someone was like, well, yeah, this one happened. And you're like, that is not at all what happened. Everybody's got those experiences at work, at home, and that is an opportunity for conflict. So let's define conflict. Conflict is the struggle between limited resources and differing goals. So conflict is that struggle in between how do we spend limited resources and the differing goals each of us have about how we spend those resources. And this is just a general term of conflict. And the reason I like using this is because it turns it into problem solving. Nobody loves the struggle. Nobody loves the struggle. Maybe there's a couple crazy people out there, but what we love is the solution. We want the resolution. We want to get to a way of winning. And I'm always trying to get us to a win-win. And so we have to solve this struggle between limited resources and differing goals. And the differing goals have to do with our personalities. So sometimes it's about the vision, and sometimes it's about what we think a project might be about. Sometimes it might be where do we want to eat on a Saturday night. But most of the time, it has to do with our personalities that are lurking beneath the surface. And we're not even always aware that that's what's happening. So this is why the Enneagram is so important. So the Enneagram is a personality framework, and it shows us why we feel, think, and act the way we do. It's talking about these deep motivations that take us into different feelings, that bring us into different thoughts, that to guide our actions in the world. And though that why, if we don't understand that why, we're never going to understand the differing goals of somebody else. So we show up in Chicago and we had very different goals of the next time we were there. We had differing motivations behind that trip, behind the travel. And it wasn't motivations like, I just want to go on a trip. It was motivations like, I want people to like me. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. I don't want to be limited. I want to expand. I don't want to be betrayed. I want to do it by the rules. Those are the deep motivations of the Enneagram that help us start to understand how our personality is built. So that is what conflict is: differing resources and limited goals. Limited goals and differing resources. And then the Enneagram is this personality framework that concentrates on our motivations, why we think, feel, and act the way we do. So now let's talk about these 3 different conflict styles. And as I'm going through them, I would love for you just to notice which one of these feels the most like you. We can reach for all of these styles. Doesn't matter which personality type is on the Enneagram. We all have a connection to one of these styles. But each of these styles can be your initial reaction, that kind of knee jerk, here's where I'm going and what you want to do. And then you have all kinds of stories about how you're not supposed to do that, or what's the better way, or experience that says, if I do it this way, it's going to turn out badly. All of that starts to happen. But the original style is the way we act when we're at our most, what we call mechanical, our most reactive. We're not thinking through everything. It's just how we want to keep ourselves safe and to get our needs met. So these are the 3 styles. They are what I like to call the dynamite, the cool cucumber, and the silver lining. So if you do Enneagram work, so like when I'm working with my coaching clients in the Catalyst Leadership Lab, we dig far deeper into these harmonic styles. But for today, I'm just going to give you an overview of the dynamite, the cool cucumber, and the silver lining. So we're going to start with the dynamite. Dynamites are Enneagrams 4s, 6s, and 8s, and they're really connected to a conflict emotionally. And they are passionate, they are quick. The Enneagram 4s, 6s, and 8s kind of catchphrase is, aren't you upset about this? And they are just really immediately upset and angry. And that's how they react when they face disappointment. And that's not bad or wrong. It's just how they initially respond to a conflict. If things aren't going their way, if there are differing goals and the resources are limited, then their initial reaction is this emotional response. And that is valuable because we are emotional beings. And when this group is really in control, they remind us that there are emotional implications and emotional aspects to who we are that are valuable in the workplace. They are so valuable to increasing our EQ, because if we don't talk about what the emotions are, they're just going to control us and we won't even know. So that's the real positive this group brings. This group can also get a little scary to other people because they're like, oh, I don't want that reaction, so I'm going to do something else to avoid it. So this group, the dynamites, really have to work on connecting emotionally, but also managing their responses, to not let the emotions control everything, but allow the emotions to inform and teach. That's the dynamite. And then we've got the cool cucumbers. Now, cool cucumbers are Enneagrams 1, 3s, and 5s. And this group is very interested in competency. They want to know what the rules are. What is the policy? What is the procedure? What does the research say? What are the goals? They're very wanting to be competent and capable in their response to conflict. Now, in the Western world, particularly in Western business, this particular conflict style is held up as the standard. And in some ways, it is really helpful. Like, oh, policies and procedures are there they're pre-made decisions. They're things we've already done before. And that's really helpful. We all do want to be competent. Where this group gets in trouble is they sometimes lose the forest for the trees, and they can be so focused on like, what is the rule? They can forget the emotional implications or the details of how people respond in order to solve the problem. So they may come to a solution, but everybody's still a little emotionally upset or not bought in. And then the solution can't be enacted because everybody's still emotionally way back here. So that's what this group has to wrestle with. The cool cucumber is really helpful when diffusing a situation, but this group has to remember to allow emotions in and manage them and let them inform the process. So I don't know if you're listening, are you thinking dynamite, cool cucumber? Where are you in this? Because I can tell you right now, you might be thinking, oh, I work with so-and-so and they're definitely this. That's good. It's helpful to know that. But I want you to think about you and which one of these styles is you. So we're going to go to the last one, which is the silver linings group. And the silver linings group are Enneagram 2, 7s, and 9s. And they are looking for, what is the happy positive response? What is well, at least we're going to get this done. And what that leads to in the best is like this hopeful vision of the future. Like, oh, this is where we're going. This is what we want. When we get through this struggle, we'll have this great thing at the end. And that's positive. We all want that. Like, we have to have some kind of hope. And this group can really bring the hope. What this group can struggle with, though, is they can be so avoidant of conflict because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel positive. It's not like, I want to like get through this because this is how we're going to, it's just all kind of scary. And so they'll be like, oh, well, at least this, and kind of move on. Or, oh, we should just do this, and kind of come up with a solution without really incorporating, is that possible? Is that a solution that really moves us forward? They're very good at knowing what the problem is and the vision of it, but not always on top of, is this a feasible solution? Because they're so focused on making it sound and feel good. So these three conflict styles, the dynamite, the silver lining, and the cool cucumber, they are different ways we react to conflict, and they can cause us some trouble if we're not aware. I gave you positives and struggles for each one of these groups. So they each bring something positive. And the way we get to more of the positive, the way we get to the really helpful emotional connection and the clear action steps and the big vision of hope, the way we get to those things is being really aware of who we are. And knowing, oh, this is how I'm wired to respond. So what can I do that's going to be more helpful to solve this problem? That's how we work through conflict. We start with understanding ourselves, and then we can face how other people might be approaching this differently. So you can just imagine if two people were coming together and there was a problem, somebody might explode and somebody else might be like, I'm out because this doesn't feel good. And now the problem isn't going to get solved. So differing conflict styles can bring value when we work on ourselves and we start getting coaching and feedback and self-awareness around how we approach conflict. So if you are new here, you may not know that I did a TEDx on conflict and the power of seeing conflict as an opportunity. And that is true in our workplaces. That is true in our volunteer organizations. That is true in our deepest and closest relationships. So I would love to invite you to a Q&A party. So if you haven't seen the TEDx, I'll put the link in here. But if you go to jenwhitmer.com/TEDx party, it's going to take you and you can sign up for this Q&A on Wednesday. We're going to be live on a Zoom and you can ask me more detailed questions because I'm talking about conflict resolution in this kind of big idea way. But when you are sitting at your kitchen table and you're arguing over soccer schedules or the budget, on the Zoom with your coworkers, it feels different. And so we can get into some of those things because it's just a Q&A with me and, your closest friends on a Zoom. And so we can get to some of those. And I also have a few special guests, some fellow TEDx speakers, and we can talk about the whole TEDx experience as well and like how that happened. But what I really want you to do is be able to ask your questions, because I know that your leadership will rise and fall on your ability to handle conflict. Because whether you can be the best coder in the world, you can be the best graphic designer in the world, but if you can't manage your people and getting through conflict to healthy resolutions, you can't lead them. And that is why it is so important. So come on Wednesday, ask your questions. It's going to be an interactive party, and we're going to have a lot of fun. If you've got more questions about conflict, I would love to answer them. So shoot me a DM, put something in the comments, and I will make sure I get back to your question. Next Monday, we have a special guest, so be looking for that. It's coming back on Monday Mentor. I'm here every week at 1 p.m. Eastern, giving you practical leadership tips and helping you solve conflict and personality clashes so you and your team can do connected and powerful work. I hope to see you on Wednesday at the Q&A party, and I will talk to you all later. Bye, everybody.